Chapter 15 Intense Sandstorm. Some in Medina were quite happy to learn of the disappointment the followers experienced at the Battle of Uhud, and insulted the messenger on this misfortune. They said, "How can a messenger of the sublime be defeated by pagan idol worshippers? Had the messenger been a true messenger, he would not have suffered that defeat. He is no more than an ambitious adventurer who seeks a kingdom. As such, he sometimes wins and sometimes loses." They jeered at the followers and murmured snide comments among themselves. 1 year passed by. Abu Sufyan began to worry that he would not be able to keep the promise he made for a rematch at Badr, the Quraysh versus the messenger's followers. The Quraysh had suffered a bad year and had not been able to feed their livestock sufficiently. The Quraysh sent a man, Naim, to try to convince the messenger not to show up to Badr, attempting to deceive him that the Quraysh had gathered up huge numbers which the followers should fear. This only served to have the opposite effect on the followers, as the Sublime said, "Men said to them, 'A great army is gathering against you, so fear them.' But it only increased their faith. They said, 'For us the Sublime sufficeth, and he is the best disposer of affairs.' 1,500 of the followers and the messenger prepared themselves to go to Badr. When they arrived at the battlefield, the Quraysh were nowhere to be seen. News spread that the Quraysh had abandoned their promise, and a deep embarrassment seeped in back at the city. The followers made the most of the opportunity by sacrificing animals for the sake of the Sublime and participating in a local fair. There was much joy. Around this time, a man named Salman, the Persian, had become a follower and had immigrated. He was, however, a slave to an influential Jew in Medina. Salman yearned to join the cause of the followers and to gain the reward promised by the Sublime, but was unable to do so fully because of his bondage. The Jewish owner set a condition for Salman's freedom from slavery, which was that 300 date palms not only be planted on his land, but also bear fruit. When informed of his plight, the messenger asked Salman to dig all the holes for this request. Young palm shoots were then brought over, and the messenger himself planted all of them into the holes that Salman had dug. Within 1 year, 299 of the date palms miraculously gave fruit except for only one plant. Looking at the sickly plant, the messenger asked, "What is wrong with that one?" A follower and good friend, Omar, said, "I planted that one." The lagging date palm was removed. The messenger then planted one more with his hands, which then bore fruit. Salman was set free. One day, in response to being offered a price for an item at the marketplace in Medina, a Jewish man became displeased and responded, "No, by him who gave Moses superiority over all human beings." A follower raised his hand and slapped the Jew. The follower said, "How dare you say this when the messenger is among us?" Mention of this incident was made to the messenger, and he said, "The Sublime says, 'And the trumpet will be blown, and all who are in the heavens and all who are on the earth will swoon away, except him whom the Sublime wills. Then it will be blown a second time, and behold, they will be standing, looking on, waiting. I will be the first one to raise his head, and I will see Moses holding on to one of the pillars of the throne, and I do not know whether he will have raised his head before me, or he will be one of those whom the Sublime exempts." The animosity that some of the people in Medina had toward the community of followers started to grow. A Jewish tribe broke its treaty of alliance with the messenger. For this treachery, some of them were expelled away from Medina. This particular Jewish tribe traveled to the city and met with the Qurayshi leaders, including Abu Sufyan. They were furious about being expelled from Medina and convinced the Quraysh to join forces with them to strike the messenger and the followers. They went into the sanctuary and made an oath against the messenger. Abu Sufyan asked the Jewish tribe, "You are people of the book. We don't know the book. Just tell us, is what we are doing right, or is what the messenger doing right?" A Jewish man responded, "Your faith is the better faith." Several other tribes across the peninsula decided to join forces with the Quraysh and the Jewish tribe to march toward Medina against the messenger. The messenger's uncle, Al-Abbas, was still residing in the city and sent advance warning to the messenger that the Quraysh had amassed an unprecedented army with cavalry and would arrive in Medina within a week. Upon receiving word, the messenger met with his people to strategize. Since the Quraysh and their confederates would be bringing cavalry, Salman the Persian suggested, in Persia, when we feared horse people, we would dig trenches. This would prevent the horses from getting to our troops. The messenger agreed with the approach. He, along with 3,000 of the followers, began to dig a large trench just outside of Medina. This work was especially difficult because it was a time of drought and food was scarce. Also during this time of year, the nights were cold. Recently freed Salman the Persian was diligently digging the trench, and everyone there felt a close bond with him. The people who had always lived in Medina said, "Salman is one of us." The immigrants from the city said, "No, Salman is one of us." The messenger said, "He is from our family." Much of the land that was being dug was rocky. When the followers hit a particularly difficult spot, the messenger poured water over it, made a supplication, and it miraculously turned to sand before their very eyes. They then came to a massive rock, wanting to split it. The messenger came and struck it. 3 lightning bolts emerged from it. Salman asked, "What did that mean?" The messenger said, "I was given Yemen, Byzantium, Syria, and Faris. I can see the Persian palaces." In the not too distant future, the believers would eventually conquer all of these lands. As they were digging and carrying the earth on their shoulders, the messenger said, "O Sublime One, there is no life except the life of the hereafter, so please forgive the immigrants." The messenger had been doing what few men could do. He was simultaneously a spiritual leader, military commander, head of a city-state, family man, and marriage counselor. On an average day outside of war periods, the messenger would devote 1/3 of his time to worship, 1/3 to the government and community, and 1/3 to his family. With very little available to eat, the followers would tie a stone pressed to their stomach to suppress the hunger. Down in the trench with them, the messenger raised his cloak and showed his followers that he had tied 2 stones to his stomach because he felt the same. One of the followers, Jabir, said, "O messenger, allow me to go home." The messenger granted his request, although they were still digging the trench. Jabir said to his wife, "I saw the messenger in a state that I cannot treat lightly. Have you got something for him to eat?" She replied, "I have barley and a goat." Jabir slaughtered the goat, and she ground the barley. Then they put the meat in the earthenware cooking pot. Jabir went to the messenger and said, "I've got a little food prepared, so get up, O messenger, you and 1 or 2 men along with you for the food." The messenger asked, "How much is that food?" Jabir told him about it. The messenger said, "It is abundant and good. Tell your wife not to remove the earthenware pot from the fire and not to take out any bread from the oven till I reach there." Then the messenger called to a large group of the followers, "Get up!" The followers got up and started walking over. When Jabir came to his wife, he said, "The Sublime's mercy be upon you." The messenger came along with the followers and those who were present with him. She said, "Did the messenger ask you how much food you had?" He replied, "Yes." Jabir's wife trusted the messenger's judgment and was not overly worried about feeding the army. Then the messenger said to the followers, "Enter and do not throng." The messenger started cutting the bread into pieces and put the cooked meat over it. He covered the earthenware pot and the oven when he took something out while supplicating to the Sublime to bless their food. He gave the food to his fellow warriors and took the meat out of the pot. He went on cutting the bread and scooping the meat for the soldiers until they all ate their fill miraculously, and even then some food remained. Then the messenger said to Jabir's wife, "Eat and present to others as the people are struck with hunger." The followers returned to the trench and finally finished digging it on the 6th day. It stretched long and wide. Shortly thereafter, the Quraysh and their confederates arrived with a total of 10,000 men and several hundred horses. They started pitching their tents to take shelter. The followers were once again outnumbered by a factor greater than 3 to 1. After the Battle of the Trench commenced, the Qurayshi cavalry tried to make a charge, but they could not breach the trench completely to attack the followers. Instead, the archers who were allied with the messenger shot their arrows at the Qurayshi horses, wounding them. Witnessing the gridlock, one of the Jewish men told Abu Sufyan that he would meet with another tribe that had upheld its treaty with the messenger. The Jew tried to convince the tribe to turn on the messenger, but with little success. He was persistent, though, and the tribe caved into treachery, eventually tearing up their treaty originally agreed to with the messenger. Back at the battle, there was a narrow stretch of the trench which a Qurayshi horseman was able to jump over, but was killed by the messenger's cousin Ali. Upon seeing this, the other cavalry retreated to the Qurayshi side of the trench. The army of the messenger learned that the neighboring disbelieving tribe had broken the treaty. Realizing that the inside of Medina could be exposed, the wavering men amongst them said to the messenger, "Our houses now are naked and defenseless. Let us go back." They left the army and went to their households in Medina. Only the most dedicated of followers were left standing with the messenger behind the trench. They began a phase of keeping watch all day and night, lest the opposition breach the barrier. The number of wounded horses in the Qurayshi cavalry was escalating. The disbeliever Naim was also present at the battle of the trench. The faith entered his heart, and he decided to slip into the followers' camp. Naim went to the messenger and said, "O messenger, I am a follower, and my people don't know it. I want to help you." The messenger observed, "You are just one man." Naim asked, "What can I do?" The messenger advised, "To the utmost of your power, set them at odds with each other. War is deception." Naim went inside Medina to the tribe that had just broken its treaty and reminded them, "You saw what happened to that tribe that was banished from Medina. They lost everything. This war is not going the way they planned. The Quraysh are starting to get worried. If they desert you, you are going to get slaughtered. Do not tell them I told you this. If they want you to go out, demand at least 100 of their noblemen as security for you, and see their goodwill. If they don't give them to you, they have trickery in mind." Naim then went to Abu Sufyan and divulged, "I was just with the tribe that broke the treaty with the messenger, and you are not going to believe what they are planning. They are going to go back to the messenger, and they have told him that they want to make a pact with him. As a proof of goodwill, they are going to give him 100 Qurayshi noblemen." Abu Sufyan was perplexed, but trusted Naim. He did not know that Naim had switched loyalties. The next day, Abu Sufyan went to the tribe that Naim had mentioned and called them to join him in battle. The tribe responded, "We want 100 of your men." Abu Sufyan did not trust them anymore. He thought they were going to betray him and refuse their demand. Division and doubt arose amongst the Quraysh and their confederates. As emotions and turbulent loyalties swept the Qurayshi army, an incredible sandstorm struck the battlefield. Visibility was very poor, and both sides shivered. Tents were being blown away by the overpowering winds. Several days passed by in the unrelenting sandstorm. The Quraysh and their confederates were torn on what to do next. Meanwhile, the messenger asked for a volunteer from his army to cross battle lines and bring back a report from the opposing side. They were shivering from the cold and waited to see who would stand up for the assignment. No one stood. The messenger picked a follower and sent him forth. Hidden by the darkness of night, the follower reached within earshot of Abu Sufyan and heard him say, "Let us go home. We have had enough. The horses and camels are dying, the tents keep blowing away, most of the equipment has been lost, and we cannot cook our food. There is no reason to stay." The follower returned just as the messenger finished a prayer. As the messenger put his cloak over the man to warm him up, he learned that the Quraysh were planning to leave. Once the opposing army retreated the next morning, the messenger told the followers they could go back home. He did, however, recall some of them to guard the trench in the event that the Quraysh decided to return by surprise. The messenger and his army had defeated the Quraysh and their confederates yet again in the Battle of the Trench. This was a major turning point in the struggle between the followers and the Quraysh. The Sublime revealed, O you who have believed, remember the favor of the Sublime upon you, when armies came to attack you, and we sent upon them a wind, and armies of angels you did not see, and ever is the Sublime of what you do seeing. Angel Gabriel came to the messenger and told him that the tribe which had betrayed the followers by breaking their treaty in the middle of the battle of the trench should be brought to justice. Just after the afternoon prayer, the messenger announced this, and the followers quickly took up arms again, marching toward the treacherous tribe. They laid siege on the tribe's fortress for 25 days until they eventually surrendered to the messenger. Despite being the victor, the messenger allowed the tribe to pick who would try their case and pass judgment. The tribe chose Saad, who was the leader of a clan which had been allied with them in the past era, but was now a follower and ally of the messenger. Saad had been wounded in the Battle of the Trench and was now slowly dying. Given that the faith allowed minority parties the option to follow their own laws, Saad decided that the treacherous tribe could be tried according to their own legal system, which specified that one who breaks a treaty or commits treason should face the penalty of death. Thus, the men of that tribe were executed while the women and children were left unharmed. Shortly thereafter, Saad passed away from his battle wounds. During the night, Angel Gabriel came to the messenger and said, O messenger, who is this dead man? When he arrived, the doors of heaven opened and the throne of the Sublime shook. The messenger went to check on Saad, but learned that he had died. The followers carried Saad to his funeral. Although he had been a formidable man, his body somehow felt light to them. After the burial, the messenger proclaimed thrice, Glory be to the Sublime. The Sublime is the most great. The followers asked him what the meaning of this was. The messenger said, The grave was tight for this good man until the Sublime eased it for him.